When a woman rejects you, she expects you to crawl back to her. She expects you to message her, try to explain yourself, and beg for another chance. Many men don't know this, but it is at this exact moment that she decides if you are a strong man or just another disposable one. This is when her mind seeks an answer it hasn't found yet. Maybe you don't understand right now. Maybe you even doubt it. But if you do exactly what I'm going to tell you here, your life changes, and then you'll come back to thank me. 99% of men make the same mistake. They chase after the woman who rejected them, and that automatically triggers contempt. Not admiration, not respect. Contempt. The woman starts feeling the urge for that man to stay as far away as possible. But when you do the opposite, when you pull away, vanish, get involved with other women, unintentionally hook up with her friends, and demonstrate that you aren't stuck on the rejection, something changes. Your value goes up, the tables turn. Her perception begins to transform into silence. I don't need to convince you of anything. Psychology has explained this for decades. Just do it, and then come back here to comment on the result. I want you to come back to this video after applying what I'm telling you, because disappearing isn't just the most brutal way to respond to rejection. It is also the most powerful way to make a woman reevaluate the value she lost. And that is exactly what we are going to talk about in today's video. 7 reasons why women completely change their perception of you when you disappear without explanation. From this moment on, you are going to hear what no one has the courage to say, the truths hidden behind ready-made speeches that most people prefer to pretend they don't see. So, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, leave a like, and comment which city you're watching from, because I want to know where you are following us from. Many women fear a channel like ours reaching 100,000 subscribers because they know that the more men wake up, the less manipulation works. It's no use waking up if everyone around you is still asleep. So subscribe to the channel now so we can grow our community of lucid and prepared men. It's totally free. Now, without further ado, let's get to what really matters. First reason, because your absence creates a void that no amount of attention can replace. When you simply disappear, you leave no room for that person to fill the void with justifications, shared guilt, or even the comfort of being hated. Absence is different from any other form of rejection or confrontation. It offers no closure, allows no debate, and doesn't give the person the satisfaction of knowing exactly why you left. This void you leave isn't filled by anyone else, because no one else is you. Other people, other attentions, other relationships may try to occupy that space, but something will always be missing that cannot be replaced. Your specific presence, what only you represented in that person's life. It is a pulsing void that is there every day, silently reminding them that something important is gone and cannot simply be swapped for anything else. When someone rejects you, you still exist somewhere in the universe. The pain may be deep, but there is the possibility of an encounter, an explanation, a resolution. But when you disappear, you become a ghost that the person feels but can never reach, an unanswered question constantly echoing in their mind. You are no longer a person they can deal with. You are an absence that haunts them. The pain of this void is peculiar because it grows over time, becoming increasingly unbearable. At first, the person might try to ignore it, filling it with activities, work, other people, or frantic entertainment. But as days, weeks, and months pass, that empty space begins to make more and more sense. Not because you were perfect, not because you were the person of their dreams, but simply because you were real. You were there, you occupied a concrete place in their life, and now you don't. Every time they look at the spot where you used to be, every time something reminds them of you, a song, a place, a joke you would make, that void grows a bit more, becoming almost physical. And the ultimate cruelty lies exactly in this. They cannot argue against a void. They cannot beat an absence with clever words. They cannot reconcile with silence. They cannot even fight something that isn't there. All they can do is feel that empty space echoing, day after day, night after night, until the void becomes a permanent companion. Absence doesn't just hurt once, it hurts continuously because it is constant, because it is intense, because it never offers the mercy of a definitive end. The true revenge lies in knowing that this void won't be resolved with desperate attention, compensatory affection, attempts at recovery, or performance-based indifference. Because the void doesn't disappear, it just changes shape and intensity. Sometimes it gets bigger, sometimes smaller, but it is always there, always present. And every time that person tries to fill it with something or someone, subconsciously or consciously, they feel it's not the same, that nothing fits perfectly into the space you left. You didn't leave a void that can be negotiated, discussed, or resolved through a well-arranged meeting. You left an absence that only confirms, repeatedly, that you are gone and chose to stay away. This is the true power of disappearing, transforming your life into a void that no one can manage, a black hole that constantly pulls attention but never offers anything in return. And while the person desperately tries to fill that void with whatever they find, people, activities, distractions, you are far away, intact, while they burn inside trying to deal with what you left on purpose, nothing but nothingness. Second reason, because there is no argument for her to win. When you disappear, you take away from the other person the only thing they often still want after a bad relationship, the chance to win an argument, to have the last word, to prove they were right or that you were wrong. Discussion is a familiar territory, a stage where someone can exercise control, the power of argument, rhetorical intelligence. It is a place where it's possible to come out victorious or, at least, dignified by the coherence of one's own words. There are people who carry grudges for years, just for the chance to one day say exactly what they think to that person, to destroy their arguments with flawless logic, to finally prove they were right. But when you simply vanish, you aren't there to be countered, to have your arguments demolished, to be proven wrong, or to hear the person finally say everything they held in. Your absence completely eliminates the stage where that person could gain something, where they could at least have the satisfaction of a rhetorical victory. It's as if you left the game before the match ended, leaving them with all that built-up energy and nowhere to spend it. The frustration of this impossible discussion is deep and corrosive because it activates a primitive instinct in all of us, the need for confrontation, for resolution through dialogue. When someone rejects us, hurts us, or disappoints us, there is a natural desire to confront them, to explain why they were wrong, to make them understand the scale of the damage they caused. This is a form of emotional processing most people use, through words, through arguing, through discussion, but you took that away from her. You refused to step into the ring. You didn't even offer the pretext of an argument, nor did you react enough for her to defend herself or attack. And this silent refusal is infinitely more humiliating than any verbal defeat could ever be. Because it's not just that you aren't available to be discussed, it's that you aren't even worth an argument. You aren't important enough for her to dispute with. You aren't worthy of her reasoning. You simply disappeared, and this disappearance communicates something very clear. You don't even deserve the time and energy of a proper fight. The true cruelty resides in the fact that this discussion that never happens becomes the most important discussion of her life, the one she will have with herself endlessly. She will spend years rehearsing what she would have said, refining her arguments, imagining how she would defeat you if she had the chance. But you took that chance away. You left her in a state of eternal suspension, frozen in that moment when she had everything to say, but no one to say it to. And meanwhile, you are far away, completely indifferent to all the arguments she could never use, all the victories she could never win. The discussion that could have been her catharsis, her redemption, her proof that she was right, simply never happens. She stays stuck in an argumentative limbo where everything remains unsaid, unresolved, and unwon. This is the silent revenge of disappearing, turning the person into someone who eternally debates with a ghost, who never wins because there is never a real confrontation, only the empty echo of words that were never spoken. Third reason, because doubt hurts more than rejection. Rejection is painful, no doubt, but it is a pain with defined borders. When someone rejects you clearly, when they explicitly say they don't want you in their life, there is a certain liberation in that clarity, no matter how much it hurts. You know where you stand, you know the reasons, or at least you believe you do. You can process the rejection, cry, get furious, move past it, or consciously hold a grudge. But doubt is an endless torment. When you disappear without explanation, without goodbye, without anything but absolute silence, you leave that person submerged in an ocean of speculation and uncertainty. She will constantly wonder what happened, why, if it was something she did, if she said something wrong, if she wasn't good enough, if you still think about her, if you'll return one day. Doubt is a mental parasite that feeds on the void you left, growing and multiplying with every day that passes without an answer. And unlike rejection, which boils and then cools, doubt remains lukewarm, always present, always gnawing. The psychological torture of doubt is that it never allows the person to reach a point of closure. The human mind is wired to seek answers, to fill information gaps with assumptions and stories. When you disappear, the person cannot simply accept the end. They are forced to create narratives, to interpret your silence, to assign meanings to every lack of a message. Maybe she decided you were too busy. Maybe she believes you were going through something difficult and needed space. Maybe she imagines you are suffering as much as she is and will come back when you're ready. Maybe she thinks it was all a misunderstanding that could be resolved if only she could talk to you again. These narratives are mental prisons of her own making, fueled by the lack of information you provided. And as she builds these stories, she's constantly reviewing the past, analyzing every interaction, every word spoken, looking for clues that explain your disappearance. All her emotional energy becomes trapped in this infinite analysis, this frantic search for meaning, in a silence you deliberately maintain. What makes this truly devastating is that doubt perpetuates hope, and hope is the most refined prison ever built. As long as there is doubt, there is the possibility that you will return, explain yourself, and make everything make sense. As long as there is doubt, that person cannot fully let you go, because letting go would mean accepting that maybe you'll never return, that maybe there will never be answers. Clear rejection, however brutal, offers an ending. But you didn't offer an ending, you offered a question mark. And this person will live indefinitely in that question mark, hoping that maybe one day it turns into a period. You left her in a state of emotional suspension where she cannot truly move forward because part of her is still waiting for an explanation, for a return, for anything that turns the silence into something understandable. This is the true curse of disappearing. You don't offer rejection. You offer eternal doubt, a torment that grows more painful every day because she can never be absolutely sure of anything, never finally rest, knowing exactly what happened and why. Fourth reason, because she cannot use you as an option. One of the most toxic dynamics in any relationship is when one person keeps another as an option. Someone to go back to when things don't work out with anyone else. Someone to comfort them in the middle of the night. Someone who is always there available as an emotional plan B. Many people who reject others still like to know that person will be there if they need them, that they can always go back, that an emotional safety net exists. They like that feeling of control, that certainty that someone loves them enough to accept crumbs of attention. But when you disappear completely, you eliminate that possibility. You aren't available to be rescued in her moments of loneliness. You aren't there to offer comfort when her other relationships fail. You don't exist as a viable option for when she regrets her choice. Your absolute absence takes away her illusion of control, the feeling of always having you as a backup. And that leaves her genuinely alone with her choices, genuinely responsible for the consequences of having rejected someone who could have been there forever. What makes this particularly cruel is that you don't just refuse. You disappear in such a way that even the possibility doesn't remain. When someone knows you will always be available, even if they don't want to admit it, There is an implicit security in their rejections. She can reject you now because she knows you'll be there later. She can look for other people because she's certain you'll take her back if nothing else works. Your unconditional availability is like emotional insurance that allows her to be reckless with your feelings. But you cancelled that insurance. You became completely unavailable, completely inaccessible. Now, when she sees relationships fail, when she feels alone on a cold night, when she realizes she made a mistake letting you go, there is no one to call. You won't answer. You won't come back. You won't hold her and say everything will be okay. You simply no longer exist in her life, and this permanence of absence forces her to confront the harsh reality of her choices without the mercy of an emotional safe haven. She is adrift without the option she used to have, the you option. The freedom you gain by disappearing is also the prison you put her in. Because she can no longer use you, she is forced to deal with the consequences of her own actions fully and without mitigation. Every time she seeks comfort and doesn't find it, every night she feels alone with no one to call, every moment she realizes she made a mistake, all of this will hit her in the face without any illusion that you are still there as an option. And the pain of this reality is much deeper than it would be if she knew you were still waiting for her somewhere. Because now she understands viscerally that her rejection had real consequences, that her choice not to choose you was a choice that left her truly alone. You aren't just rejecting her. You are rejecting her permanently, in a way that pulls her out of the comforting illusion that she could always go back. This is the final revenge, turning her rejection into her own prison, where she can no longer escape to you, where you are no longer an option, and where she is left completely alone with the truth that she lost someone she could have had forever. Fifth reason, because time works in your favor. When you disappear, time becomes your greatest ally. Every day that passes reinforces the reality of your absence even more, making it less and less reversible. In the first few days or weeks, maybe that person still believes you might come back, that this is just a rough patch that will be overcome. But as months turn into years, the possibility of a return becomes increasingly remote, increasingly unfeasible. Life goes on without you. She meets other people, lives new experiences, builds an alternative reality where you don't exist. And while all this happens, you are permanently frozen in her memory, exactly as you were the moment you disappeared. You don't age in her eyes. You don't make new mistakes. You don't become less interesting or attractive. You just get further away, more and more unreal, like a ghost inhabiting her thoughts and memories. The time that was supposed to heal her only deepens the sense of loss, because it takes her even further from that moment when you were still there. The power of time working in your favor is that it turns you into something mythical in her mind. Over the years, memories become more edited, more idealized. The bad times you shared gradually disappear, while the good moments shine even more intensely in her memory. You slowly become not the real person you were, but the best possible version of that person, the version she wishes you had been. And while this happens, her current relationships with other people seem paler and paler, more and more ordinary compared to this idealized version of you that lives in her mind. Time doesn't just preserve your image. Time improves it, beautifies it, transforms it into something that no real person could ever match. And while she ages, grows, and changes, you remain eternally young, eternally better, eternally that person who disappeared at the peak of your importance in her life. But there is also a darker and truer side to this work of time. The more time passes, the more impossible your return becomes. Not just because she built a life without you, but because you became so distant, so mythified, so preserved in emotional amber that a real reunion would invariably be disappointing. If you returned today, you would just be an ordinary person, with your own problems, your own limitations, your own errors. You wouldn't be that perfect version she built in her mind during all these years. And that would make everything even worse, Not just because she would lose you a second time, but because she would discover that she also lost that idealized version, that perfect ghost that accompanied her. Time works in your favor because the more it passes, the more impossible it becomes to go back, not because of external circumstances, but because the person you were, in her eyes, no longer exists. There is only the void you left and the mythified figure that took your place in her memory. And this is a victory that only grows with every passing year, every changing season, every forgotten birthday that reminds her you've been gone longer than you were ever there. Sixth reason, because absence matures her perception. Time doesn't just work in your favor passively, it also actively changes the way that person views themselves and the world around them. As the years go by and you remain absent, she is forced to mature, to grow, and to develop a deeper understanding of herself and her relationships. And paradoxically, this maturation makes her even more pained and conscious of what she lost in you. When someone is young, it's easy to be in love in a short-sighted, consuming way. You just want the person, you just want to be near, you just want that feeling. But as you get older, as you go through experiences, as you become wiser and more introspective, you begin to see those people from the past in a much clearer and deeper way. You understand what they represented to you that no one else did. You realize, with painful clarity, exactly how much you underestimated them, how ungrateful you were, how negligent you were with something precious you had. This emotional maturity that time forges is a double-edged sword that mostly cuts that person. Because now, with more years lived, more experiences accumulated and more relationships to compare, she can finally see with glaring precision exactly who you were and what you meant. That relationship she casually discarded years ago now appears, in retrospect, as something rare and valuable that she lost. She meets more people over the years, others who are beautiful, smart, interesting, but none of them are you. None of them fit exactly the way you did. And this realization grows slowly, painfully over the years. She doesn't immediately realize she made a mistake rejecting you, but every subsequent relationship that fails, every connection that feels empty compared to what she had with you, every moment she truly feels seen and understood by someone, actually every moment she misses that feeling, reminds her that you were different. You were special in a way she didn't recognize at the time, and now it's too late. The perfect cruelty of this is that this maturity doesn't just make her lament you, it makes her lament herself, because now she understands how different things would be if she could go back, if she could have you again with the wisdom she possesses now. She clearly sees all her own mistakes, all the lack of vision, all the immaturity that led her to reject someone who was exactly what she needed. And this self-awareness is a form of torture much more refined than any rejection could be. Because now it's not just that she lost you, it's that she lost you because of her own blindness, her own arrogance, her own inability to see the value of what she had while she still had it. Time matures her perception to the point where she can see with crystal clarity exactly how much she lost and exactly why. And you are out there somewhere, probably happy without her, probably with someone who appreciates you as you should be appreciated, while she is stuck in this mature and torturous realization that she made the mistake of her life by letting you go. Seventh reason, because she compares and she misses you. As the years go by and life continues without you, that person inevitably meets other people, enters other relationships, and experiences other connections. And each of these new people unintentionally becomes a mirror, reflecting you back to her. Because no matter who else she meets, no matter how good or interesting someone new is, there are inevitably comparisons. That new person is fun, but you had a sense of humor that was unique. That new person is attentive, but you had a particular way of paying attention that no one else replicated. That new person is attractive, but you had a presence that was different, that made her feel something nothing else can replicate. And these constant comparisons quietly torment her because in every new relationship, every new person, every new connection, there is that moment when she realizes you were better. Or not exactly better, just different in a way that mattered, in a way that made her feel completely alive. Comparison is particularly cruel because it's not always conscious or verbalized. It's something that happens in quiet moments, in moments when she is with someone new and suddenly remembers something you used to do, a particular way you looked at her, a joke only you would make. And in that instant, she feels the loss again, viscerally, as if it had just happened, because she can't simply stop comparing. The human mind naturally seeks patterns and makes associations. And you became the standard against which everyone else is measured. Every kiss she gives is silently compared to yours. Every deep conversation is judged against the conversations you had. Every moment of shared vulnerability with someone new reminds her of how safe she felt being vulnerable with you. And while all this happens, she probably says nothing about it. She moves on with her new relationships, but there is always that ghost there, always that shadow of you, making everything more complicated, more difficult, more inevitably disappointing. And the missing you, she feels, is exactly what you were looking for when you disappeared. Because missing someone is the ultimate recognition that you mattered, that you were necessary, and that rejecting you was a mistake. But you are no longer there to see this realization, to accept a late apology, or to win at the relationship game. You are far away, completely indifferent to the fact that she spends every new relationship secretly comparing everyone to you. Every new face searching for your features, every new voice hoping to hear that particular tone you had. She misses you, not just romantically, but in a much deeper and more complex way. She misses the way you made her feel, the way you saw her, and the way you fit perfectly into a space in her life that no one else has managed to fill. And this longing grows silently with every new relationship that fails, every new person who isn't you, every moment she wishes she could go back and do things differently. Comparison keeps her tied to you eternally because you became the reference point, the best, the only, the one that should have lasted forever. And the more she misses you, the more real the understanding becomes that she made a mistake by letting you go. This is the final revenge of disappearing, leaving her comparing you to everyone forever, missing you in every new face, every new voice, every new touch, constantly reminding herself that she lost something she can never recover. If this video made sense to you, show your support. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and write gratitude in the comments. This small action helps the algorithm bring this message to more men who need to open their eyes and reclaim their inner strength. Every interaction you make drives this movement. Thanks for following along. Stay with us, because every day we share ideas and guidance to help you strengthen your mind, rebuild your self-esteem, and take control of your own story. A big hug, and see you in the next video.